Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is Dustin Baker, who is the president of BioProtein technology and creator of the first 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription human growth hormone. This is a phenomenal conversation, you guys. Human growth hormone can help us in so many ways. However, typically it's extremely expensive and reserved for the elite that can spend $3,000 to $10,000 a month. But it is very, very good. We also talk about sleep, and he has a solution for that. I'm really anxious to try for my husband who has a very difficult time sleeping, but we know that sleep is underrated. Dustin is amazing, an awesome athlete, and I can't wait for you to meet him. So let's go and say hello to Dustin. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Hgh Health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Guess what, everyone? My book is out. It is a revised and updated edition of a book I wrote 5 years ago called No Frickin' Way, 21 Days to Ditch the Diet and Lose Weight the Keto Way by Loving Yourself to Health. When I first wrote the original book, I was not a believer in the low carb movement, but after all the years of research I've done, I am sold out for life. In this book, you will learn about all the lies you have been fed, how to engage in loving self-care, how to eat nourishing foods that provide massive energy, why the ketogenic diet is not a fad, how to heal your body through fasting, why you should move your body to get stronger, and how to create an empowering mindset. Start reading now and finally achieve the high energy and positive body image you deserve. Check it out on Kindle, on Amazon. And if you like it, please leave us a review because this will help more people find it. I really want to inspire people to not deprive themselves, but to nourish themselves with loving self-care and amazingly healthy food so that they can age stronger. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Hey, Dustin, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Tracy, for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your audience and get this moving.
Happy to have you. So for the listeners that don't know who you are yet, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Dustin Baker. I am president and a co-owner of a company called BioProtein Technology. We manufacture physician-grade products that are offered typically through physicians and now direct to consumer. And we specialize in products for basically non-synthetic alternatives to today's common synthetic hormone treatments.
Such as like all hormones or just some or?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Our main product, number one, is a non-synthetic alternative to prescription human growth hormone or HGH treatment. So HGH is a super popular anti-aging medical application. It's just crazy expensive, comes with a ton of risks. So we manufactured and created a product that gives you the same benefits without the needles, the side effects, or the long-term risks that come with a product of that nature.
So why would somebody want to take human growth hormone?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for asking. That's a number one question we get almost on a daily basis. People are prescribed or take a synthetic HGH replacement therapy for one of several reasons, or a combination of a few. The number one reason people typically take it is for weight loss, or anti-aging in general, skin, sexual function, etc. Another application for human growth hormone treatments would be physical performance. So in the gym or physical competition, for weekend warriors or professional athletes, that would be another application that people would go to their doctor and say, hey, what can you give me?
Okay. So what brought you to that point? Like, why did you, I mean, here you are now. So like, can we back up a little bit and see like how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. I laugh every time somebody asks me this question, especially in interviews, because no matter how many times I tell this story, I never know kind of where to begin or how do I cram all of this information or this whole life journey into, you got 30 seconds. Let's go. So I will do my best. So I grew up in Tampa. I grew up in a single family household. My mom basically scratched and scraped to send me to the best school she possibly could. And, like any millennial, I went through school and then ended up in my 20s. And I went through some rough patches, didn't really have a direction. I spent a lot of my time, doing stuff I shouldn't be doing. I didn't have direction. I didn't have discipline. I didn't have motivation. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't really even have any like or anybody, whipping, snapping me into shape. And one day I had a really good friend of mine. His name was Mike. And he was like, hey, man, why don't he finished school. He did the college thing. He did all that stuff. And we're in our mid 20s. He's like, why don't you stop doing what you're doing, which was, nothing good. And he's like, just come to the gym with me one day. Why don't you stop doing that when you come to the gym? And little did I know that with all of these years of hardship and, doing things I shouldn't be doing and lack of discipline, that one little moment, that one little thing of somebody reaching out and being like, hey, why don't you come do this, would change my life forever. Now, what I mean by that is that day in the gym was a starting point for my entire career, if you want to boil it all down. And what that did was, it was the first thing that I found that gave me a true passion. It gave me a direction in life that I didn't know that I, had, and it gave me this, it gave me discipline. It gave me discipline in something that motivated me. So that was this little point that sent me on this snowball effect of my career. So after that, I mean, things just started happening. I devoted my time in the gym and health and wellness and learning everything that I possibly could. I ended up under the tutelage of an ex-Olympian who taught me everything that I needed to know and wanted to know about human performance, how the human physiology, how the body works, how the body performs. I ended up taking over some other individuals' gyms, and we built those gyms up. We had some really great success. That led me to a career in professional athletics, in the training aspect of it. So professional athletics, college prep, NCAA prep, even getting invited to the NFL Pro Combine. I even started my own fitness facility after that, of a methodology that focused primarily on aging individuals 35 years and over. So a very specific physical methodology of how to train human beings as they age to get the best results as fast as we can. And the reason I'm telling you all this is through each one of those little processes and each one of those events, there was a very common thread. And that was these formulas and these products that were made out of a very small company in Tampa, Florida, by two brothers that were biochem guys. And they created these formulas that worked really awesome. And we used them in every one of the gyms that I was involved in. We used them throughout for use of professional athletes. I used them for our athletes or our gym goers that were 35 plus. And through all of those different business ventures, that was a common thread. And I had one of my mentors approach me and say, hey man, what are we doing? Why aren't we, how do we take these incredible products from this little company and how do we get them to as many people as we can? Because they just worked and they changed people's lives. And now I'm talking to you. So I'm talking to you, and we're doing exactly that. We've spent 3 years. We approached the company that made those products. We we bought them. We bought the company. We bought the formulas. We've spent 3 years in overhaul of manufacturing processes, procedures, personnel, everything we possibly could to bring these products to the latest and greatest at the forefront of what science and human performance has to offer. And now I'm talking to you, Tracy, trying to cram my whole life into, 3 minutes or less to explain.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of questions I want to kind of break down there. So
let's go. Let's rock and roll.
The first thing that cracks me up is that the aging athlete's 35.
Yeah.
I'm 56.
Perfect.
So when you say, oh, this aging athlete at 35, I'm like, screw that. That's a pup. But so what type of benefit did you see with somebody more my age, like somebody in their 50s? Like if I was to start taking a product like that, what would I notice?
Awesome. I love that. And that's really great for you to bring that up. And I love you pointing that out for me is you're actually perfect individual for who our products work best for. And I'll explain. We do consistently work. And I do say aging athletes at 35, because most athletes' careers start to end in their later 30s, if they're lucky. I mean, if you make it to, 35, that's a great career. However, the formulas that we have and that we've produced are actually best applied for individuals over the age of 35, over 40, and all the way up through, their 70s. The reason being, remember what we said earlier is we make a non-synthetic alternative to human growth hormone. Well, human growth hormone is a natural hormone your body secretes. It's equivalent for both men and women. It's not sex dominant like testosterone or estrogen. Mm-hmm. And it's responsible for those processes: metabolism, sleep, anxiety. Low growth hormone can even cause things like depression and stress. So anyway, that hormone will naturally decrease every single year after puberty for men and women. It's like a paper cut every single day. It's like one extra paper cut. You don't realize the pain or the struggle that it's creating because it's compounding day by day by day. So it's a slow boil. So what we do is our formulas are exactly the end result of that hormone. They're called growth factors. And we can get into that if you'd like, but we're replacing we're filling in the gaps, I should say. So when you're having issues that are directly related to low growth hormone, and everybody does, you can't stop. It doesn't matter who you are, how much, how well you eat or how much you exercise, it's going to decrease. We just like to fill in that gap.
So how long does it take to notice a benefit from it? And what do you notice once you start consuming it?
So I'm smiling when you ask that question, because I love this part. So we ask as many individuals as we can get our hands on that use our products. That very same question is, take us to the moment you felt the difference. And where a lot of treatments or a lot of products could potentially take months to really start to feel the effects, the overwhelming answer we get from the individuals who use BioPro Plus is 12 to 14 days. And it's like this light switch gets flicked on. And the first thing that most individuals feel that they notice is an overwhelming sense of energy and better focus, better mental cognition, and an overwhelming better sense of well-being. They just feel better. Some of the best anecdotes that we get from users is like they wake up and they look outside and they go, wow, today's just going to be a great day. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but to some people, they never say things like that. And for the individuals who will approach us or email us and say, man, you guys really changed my life, they just feel immediately better. And that's a direct result of the physiological changes that are happening at the cellular level on the inside. You don't have to feel bad. You shouldn't feel that way. So we're able to get those types of results. 12 to 14 days is pretty quick.
How do you take it? You said no needle. So is it drops, pills, cream?
Great question. So it just comes in a single vial. So it's individually dosed per day. You get one little vial. It's actually 1 milliliter. So it's a super small amount of liquid, and you place it under your tongue. The blood vessels in your tongue are expressed, meaning they're opened up, and you absorb the materials directly into your bloodstream from what's called sublingual delivery, which is absorbing the materials directly under your tongue and in your mouth.
Okay. That's easy. And is it expensive?
Where the normal synthetic HGH treatment comes in anywhere from $3,000 to at a very high end $10,000 per month, it comes in at a fraction of that. So even at the very low level of $3,000, we come in at a 1/10 of the price of that type of treatment.
Okay. And what about performance? So like I'm a CrossFitter.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite CrossFit workout? What is your favorite WOD, if you will?
I love to deadlift.
Okay.
Well, I love to deadlift. So I'm more into the power of the deadlift.
Yep.
And my recent max was 240.
Excellent.
So I was happy with that.
Is your favorite workout Diane then?
I don't even know what Diane is.
Oh, Diane. Okay. So there's benchmark workouts, right? So when CrossFit was originally created, they had those benchmarks. They were all named after a female. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Diane is 21, 15, 9 deadlifts and handstand push-ups. It's really fast. So it's a fast one. So that if you're really good, I mean, you're like a sub 2 minute Diane time. But yeah,
No, I'm not good at all. I just mastered wall walks. So
wall walks are really hard.
Yeah. And then the other day they had us do a wall walk, shoulder taps.
Yeah.
And then walk back. And I was so scared.
Yeah.
Because I've been fatigued and fallen out of a wall walk before, just, doing the open.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I'm new to CrossFit. I've only been doing it for 2 years. And I was fortunate enough, like my normal gym that I used to teach at closed with, COVID.
Yeah.
And this gym I found out was just kind of cruising under the radar. And I'm like, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. But I had a shoulder injury coming in. So right now I'm able to do like even push-ups. Like right now we're doing all these different of Cindy. Is it Cindy? Mm-hmm. Wait, Cindy. Yeah.
Cindy is pull-ups, push-ups, air squats.
Yeah. So this whole month, once a week, we're doing a variety of that shit. But
very nice.
I'm learning.
So yeah.
How long have you been doing it?
I don't do CrossFit anymore. I did for early, later in my 20s. That was a big part of my life. I managed CrossFit. I did that. Of course, that's my own personal thing, but that was my thing for a very long time. That was literally my life. So I know the space very, very well. I did the regional stuff. I did all of those things. I remember all of it, but yeah, I moved on from that when I turned, when I turned 30 is when I decided to move on. But yeah, I know all about it. CrossFit was a huge part of my life, and a lot of the stories that I'm telling actually are threaded within that very same community. A lot of the athletes we worked with were into a very similar type or CrossFit style training. So I'm very familiar with that world, 100%.
It sounds like you're a lot more familiar than I am, but I'm having fun and I like the crew there. Like the people in my 7 a.m. class are really cool. And
absolutely.
So, yeah, I love it. And then I balance it with yoga.
Perfect. Yeah. It's all about mobility and application of the movements, being able to do them safely. So the shoulder injuries, the stuff like that, I'm super, super familiar with. I think you would, we've dealt with a lot of those. I am very, very aware of those types of issues.
So then that brings up a question, Dustin. Would the Hgh help with that repair? Like say if you have like tendon, ligament, whatever, I would guess that it might help.
So remember, to answer your question, yes, 1000% it would. A synthetic HGH treatment would absolutely do that. The science is overwhelming for accelerated healing and accelerated injury recovery and prevention. Now, remember, our products are focused on the end result, or what's called the metabolite of human growth hormone. Those are called growth factors. So we like to give you the same exact benefits as a synthetic hormone treatment without any of the side effects. Because once you start messing with synthetic drugs, once you start messing with medications, once you start messing with those things, it's not that they don't work. They absolutely work. The issue is, what is your cost, risk benefit ratio? What are you willing to risk to do those things? And that's something that my company and myself, from a core values and a core virtues type perspective, we don't believe at putting you at a further risk to then front load you with some benefits and then, send you down the road with, well, I hope she's going to be okay in, 5 or 10 years. We don't want to do that. And that's why we focus on the end result and the growth factors, because we can make those and deliver them to you in a form that is molecularly identical to what your body's already producing. So there's none of those risks. So I know that's a lot, but to answer your question, I think it was important to have a little of that information. But to answer your question about like shoulder injury, and you mentioned specifically ligaments, tendons, etc., the scientific medical application of growth factors for soft tissue maintenance and repair, for instance, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, is overwhelming. So we see incredible results for individuals who are coming out of surgery, who are trying to repair an old injury, to accelerate the healing and or reduce the inflammation of that soft tissue ligament joint problem. Even there's a ton of science even behind, application with osteoarthritis and different arthritic conditions that are pretty much caused by an inflammatory response.
That was my next question, is arthritis. Because, in people in their 50s, that's when that kind of starts, which is obviously inflammation. So just curious how that would work. So that sounds
So that's exactly why when we were talking earlier, when you were like, athletes are 35, I'm 50 plus years old. How does this apply with me? It actually specifically applies to individuals in that age bracket, because that's when people are actually starting to really notice that they're suffering from a lot of these problems. They just start earlier. You just don't really start to feel them until they start to compound.
Oh, yeah. Tell me, I used to run, and then I ended up having 2 knee surgeries and all this. So one thing I've heard in the past about growth hormone, that is, if you consume it, your body stops making it.
Any synthetic hormone therapy, when you stimulate and or you replace a hormone in your body is going to notice that it exists and is going to either slow and or stop the natural production of it. Now, for individuals who are they have a medical, like a severe medical issue. So a child with growth hormone deficiency, right? So they literally do not create it, or they're at such a low level that it's a massive detriment to their way of life and their quality of life. Or you have a man who has hit what's called andropause, which is, the male version of menopause, for lack of a better term, where their testosterone goes through the floor. Let's say you have a man that's at below 200 or 100. His quality of life is terrible. So I would recommend, I'm not a physician, so I won't recommend anything, but what I will say is that those medical applications and synthetic hormone treatments do have a place in modern medicine where they are needed, they are applied. However, it is my personal opinion, and this is solely my personal opinion, that in many cases they are over applied and they are used too much. They're overprescribed, if you will. To answer your question with a little bit of that front loading of information, yes, they do stop and or lower your natural creation of hormone, which again, we're talking about cost benefit relationship or ratio. That is exactly why we focus on a 100% non-synthetic application of the end result of the hormone, so we don't cause what's called negative feedback loop. So what you just described, or you asked about, is called negative feedback loop. It simply means your body notices that it's coming from what's called an exogenous or outside source, and it stops the internal natural production of that chemical or hormone.
What are you guys, do you guys have plans to do other types of hormones as well? Or do you just
Do you have one in mind, Tracy, that you'd like to ask me about?
No. I just know that it's trendy. So
Yeah.
I have friends, they're all into it.
Yeah.
And so I actually had my doctor do a pellet on me once and I gained 13 pounds in 3 weeks.
Yeah. So
I was pissed.
I bet you were upset. So I'm very familiar with the pellets, the pellet injections, etc. It's important to know that most of my career is literally traveling to different parts of the country, and I literally speak with physicians and educate, the alternatives to some of these treatments and what we do, etc. Because you're not alone, Tracy. Like, these things happen. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes they get prescribed these treatments, and the treatments themselves, I'm laughing not because it's terrible, and I hate that this happens to people. I'm laughing because it's like, I wish people just like knew this, and this is like my life of talking about this stuff. Is a lot of times people take these treatments to fix things, and it actually compounds, like makes it worse. So for instance, you can take, we've been talking about human growth hormones, a phenomenal treatment when it's applied properly for people that are in very specific need of it. However, one of the things that it causes is called insulin sensitivity, or, basically, which is a way where your body doesn't know how to use insulin when it's created by the pancreas. It doesn't know how to use food that you eat. Let's leave it at that. So a lot of times it gets stored as fat. You're taking a product to increase metabolism or lose body fat, yet over time, it's actually creating the problem that causes you to gain more body fat. So with some of these synthetic drugs, you can take them for a specific reason, and it can backfire. And that sucks. That sounds like kind of what you dealt with. And there's, different reasons for that. We like to not do those things. We like to actually create a product that can potentially help you with some of those issues that have been caused by previous pharmaceutical drug use.
Okay, so I'm not a big drug person. I don't take medication. I don't do anything like that. Other than now I take some ivermectin once a week.
Why not? Can I ask you why not? This is the first time you and I have spoke. It's just awesome to hear different perspectives of why different individuals do that. Why, give me the rundown. Shoot at me.
Okay. Well, because I want to be as natural as possible. I want to look at root cause, what's causing my issue, not putting a Band-Aid on a symptom by taking a drug to mask the symptoms. And I don't trust big pharma. I think 100%. They're a freaking mafia, and they're full of shit, and I'm really pissed off at them. I think they're killing people and charging people a fortune, and they're suppressing things that actually work, that aren't going to make money in their pocket, that can help people in a big way. And I feel like the majority of the population has no clue. And I believe lifestyle change is key number one. I've taken so many of my clients off of medications. I mean, I haven't taken them off. Their doctor takes them off after they work with me to change their lifestyle. But like my dad died of cancer. He had it like 5 times. And I told him to get off the sugar. And he said, my doctor said it doesn't matter what I take. And as he's getting his chemotherapy, they're feeding him candy and cookies. I think that's a crime.
You know what, Tracy? I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons we felt the need to involve ourselves in getting this product to as many people as we could. We felt like we found something that provides individuals an alternative than just running for the needle. I live in South Florida. Okay. And I live in Central and South Florida. So, if you're familiar with Florida, it sounds like you are. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with Florida, but it's basically, you can walk up to any corner in any major metropolitan area and find a hormone doc that takes cash. And I mean, it's 100% legal, but takes cash and will basically give you, what you want. So it's, when I was talking earlier about heavily prescribing, over prescribing medications, we literally do what we do because I don't believe in that. I don't believe in just, giving everybody a needle and saying, knock yourself out. I think it causes more problems than it actually fixes. If you ask, I think it causes more problems than it actually fixes. So to speak to your point, it's always good to hear individuals' perspectives and their personal stories, which, I mean, yours was very concise and to the point. I love it. It was exactly the same thing as, your doctor, your physician's goal should be, how many pills can I get this person off of? Not how many scripts can I write this month?
Yeah. And I don't blame them. I think they become a doctor or a medical provider, but I also believe that their ed is funded by pharma. And so they learn how to, for the most part, for degenerative diseases anyway, they just write scripts, right? Scalpels and scripts is what they end up with. And they don't have enough time with the patient because of insurance and the way the whole system works. I have a client that's a doctor and she's exhausted. She's up all night charting and, she works so much, but she doesn't have the time with each patient to actually give them lifestyle education. And that is what I believe helps them more than any pill that they can push on them. So I do believe that they go in with this heart to help people, but based on the constraints, it's just really difficult. I've even recently had 2 OBGYNs that went from Western to like more functional naturopath type medicine just in the last 3 months, get interviewed. And it was so weird that all of a sudden, but they're seeing that they can do so much more when they actually can spend time with them and teach them how to work on their lifestyle changes, just one thing at a time,
100%. It's, if you ever look at, and you're right, it isn't totally there's only so much time in somebody's life. So we all work, we all have jobs and stuff, and physicians are no different. So it's not fair to continue to come down super hard on people and not understand their schedules as well. There's just so many different things that physicians have to cover, especially if you're talking to a GP, a general practitioner who, how many different issues are there? How much time is there absolutely in the day to cover all of these different things, especially when, if you look at the time that they spend in medical school, they spend a ton of time in pharmacology, 0 time in actual nutrition. So it's the great docs know this. They work on the nutrition, just like to your point, they focus on, and this is coming from a guy that works with physicians all day long, every day, on the phone, different cities, literally to educate on some of this stuff. The right doctors, doctors aren't all bad. The cream rises to the top and they take their time to learn about fixing exactly what you said, which is root cause and not just applying a pill to a symptom. That's kind of where we step in and help with.
And that's awesome. And I love that. And I think more people need to see what the benefits are. And so if a person with testosterone levels, does HGH help with that in any way?
So it's important to understand the balance and the relationship between human growth hormone and testosterone hormone. So let's just talk about hormones. Let's not talk about any products, pills, syringes, nothing. So in order for an individual to exert the benefits of their hormone of testosterone, they have to have equal amounts or end up a high enough level of actual human growth hormone. The same with estrogen. So you can take all the exogenous testosterone you want. You actually cannot exert the benefits, the maximum amount of benefits from that hormone without adequate amount of human growth hormone. So if your testosterone level can be high, but if your human growth hormone or your growth factor levels are excessively low, you actually don't exert the same benefits that you would have if it was. It's a direct relationship between the two. And it's exactly the same relationship with estrogen as well, which is clearly, the female version of testosterone. It's the equivalent, right? Men have testosterone, men are dominant in testosterone, women are dominant in estrogen, but they both share human growth hormone. So you can either we've been around since 2009. We've been providing our products to physicians I mean, for well over a decade now at this point. You can either get these products through a physician or provider around the world at this point, who has them in their clinic, in their office, and, can literally hand them to you. And, or you can go to our website where we have an integration built into the checkout process where you can select your physician or even type in your zip code to select a physician in your area, and or you can select the physician that we provide to you. It's simply just an online approval process to signal our warehouse it's been approved, and we ship right from our own warehouse here in Tampa, Florida.
So you have to kind of go through a doctor anyway.
Correct. Yeah, it's a very simple process. It's not a pharmaceutical synthetic drug, so it's not an actual written prescription, but it's always monitored or goes through the approval process of a physician in some way, shape, or form. And
do you have other products besides the human growth hormone?
We do. We actually make a sleep product that we add on to the product that our BioPro Plus, which is kind of our flagship, or our coup de grace, if you will. But we had a sleep product that can be taken together with our BioPro Plus or separately. We have a lot of individuals who just take the sleep product. And that product is, we like to call it a gateway drug. And the reason is because it works the very first night you take it. Like, it works immediately. And what it does is it's a phenomenal alternative to prescription sleep aids. So anybody who knows anything about prescription sleep aids, they will put you to sleep. They're just prescription sleep aids. Listen, I can't really get behind it all. So they're habit forming. They cause tons of side effects. They cause tons of risks. I mean, people wake up in their car, like in the middle of the night, they've been taking these drugs. Oh, the side effects your mouth is dropping, but if you haven't heard, sleep aids are crazy. I mean, prescription sleep drugs, I am not a fan of, and I will never get behind. So we make an alternative to prescription sleep aids. It's a completely all natural formula. It's the same delivery system, one vial, 30 minutes before bed. And what it does is, it helps to put you in your sleep cycles faster. So you have two main sleep cycles. You have NREM and REM sleep, and you spend a very specific amount of time in those sleep cycles at night. That is where 70 to 90% of all your natural hormone secretion takes place. Now, if you don't get enough time in those sleep cycles, or if you are constantly being interrupted in the middle of the night, or you have problems where you can't stay asleep all night, or you're waking up, you're interrupting your sleep cycles or your circadian rhythm, meaning you're interrupting your body's natural recovery process and hormone secretion process. So what our product does is it helps you to get into those sleep cycles faster, uninterrupted, so you can naturally secrete hormones you may be missing out on. You can it will lower stress and stress hormones. It actually has a great weight loss effect for individuals who are struggling with sleep. I think sleep is the most underutilized tool in any weight loss or fitness journey. But yeah, that's a really popular product with individuals as well. That is the product that we get the most requests for overnight shipping. Like, hey, I ran out. I need it right now. I refuse to go without it. So that one's very popular as well.
I need to get that for my husband. He doesn't sleep. He takes more shit. You can't even believe how much stuff he takes.
Like what? What's his number one? What's his top 5 things? What is he taking?
Oh God. THC drops.
Okay. Yeah.
NyQuil.
Okay.
HVMN. Melatonin. I think that's it. But that's ridiculous to me. All I take is magnesium.
Okay, magnesium is great.
It just helps with muscle relaxation. And I drink a tea by Yogi, this caramel bedtime tea that it's just like a treat, Yeah. But I worry about him. So
I'll make sure you guys get one. Taking melatonin consistently at a higher than normal dose is actually not good for you whatsoever. And I'm taking the opportunity right now to kind of address that, because that's a personal thing that I really wish people would stop doing. They don't realize how they're destroying remember when we talked about negative feedback loop earlier, when you take something too much and then so melatonin is a natural hormone that you should be secreting by being out in the daytime, by absorbing sunlight, that's actually helping you to produce more melatonin when you go to sleep. When you take a normal melatonin drug, and let's call it a drug, I don't care if it's sold on the shelves or not, it is. And when you take too much, you actually will start to stop producing normal, natural melatonin, which is exactly what you see, or why you see individuals who start off with, I got 10 milligrams, and then we're at 20, and now we're at 30. And because there's no education behind melatonin use and being like, hey, you can't really do that. People just keep taking it, and they think because they can buy it at Walmart that it's, that nothing bad's going to happen. Well, you can buy Tylenol at Walmart too, and that's the number one cause of liver failure on earth. So you got to be careful with some of this stuff. Yeah. So getting off of that melatonin is a big deal. I'm not saying that taking a small amount of melatonin is bad, because we include a very small amount in our product. But it's 2 milligrams a serving. But melatonin, you shouldn't. How about that? You should not excessively take melatonin at a higher than 5 milligram per serving dose per day. It's not good for you. And what it also does is you will stop. It messes with dopamine levels in the brain as well. So it messes with L-dopa precursors. So you're messing with chemicals in your brain that you don't know are related. And so when you do a lot of these things, like let's just stick on melatonin, taking too much melatonin, now you're screwing with your natural circadian rhythms and sleep patterns. Well, guess what is we've been spending an hour talking about symptoms and root cause. Well, where do you think depression, stress, anxiety comes from? Other than outside, exactly. Other than outside events that we cannot control, personal events, life events, et cetera, which none of us are immune to. Other than those things, when we're talking physiologically, depression, anxiety, especially in today's day and age, are, to me, one of the main epidemics. Like, if you want to talk about an epidemic, I'm talking about anxiety, depression, and stress. It's all physiological. So when you're messing with those types of hormones, especially dopamine secretion or creation, I should say, which is, for those of you who don't know, let's just call it your happy hormone, that keeps you happy, because it's a pleasure center. When you're messing with those things, you no longer gain pleasure from normal daily stuff that you should be getting. And now we're wondering why we're depressed all the time. Well, I know we're bringing this back to melatonin, but it's a real thing. And tons of people just pop melatonin like it's sweet tarts. And it can be a problem.
Yeah. And it gives you bad dreams. I hate that stuff. It makes me all wonky. I have a question. Okay. So I'm an Oura Ring. And what sleep phase did you say is when you repair? Is it,
you have two.
You said REM.
You have two sleeps. You have NREM and you have REM, and you spend time in each one of those, and they're bookended, meaning you typically go into NREM or REM first, and then you come out of them, and then you go into the next cycle. You come out of them, you go into the next cycle. It's like a little roller coaster, but you want to go through them uninterrupted. So that's when different hormones are secreted in different parts of your recovery process from an athletic perspective, or even just life perspective, are happening. So when you mess those up, think about it. If, let's say, you needed to spend, everybody is different and circadian rhythms do change and they're different for each individual. But let's say it's, you spend 6 hours of actual sleep time or less, going through these different sleep cycles, but it takes an hour or 2 hours for you to even get into these sleep cycles. And then you got to come out of them. Well, if that is a total of 8 hours and you're only getting 6, you have effectively cut your actual time in those sleep cycles if they're not interrupted. Now we're talking about different variables. If they're not interrupted by a third or half. So you want to cut your hormone secretion down by a third or half. What do you think that's doing to your weight loss goals, your fitness goals, your anxiety issues, stress issues? And that's kind of our whole thing is try telling somebody, you work with people all the time. Try telling somebody they have to get 10 hours or 8 hours of sleep a night. Most people can't. They have outside circumstances that are beyond their control, kids, jobs, life. They're not going to adjust their schedule. So we like to say we help people get 8 hours of sleep in 6.
Oh, I like that. So what do you use personally, Dustin, to track your sleep? Do you have like a Apple Watch or what do you use?
So I don't like wearables. Personally, I don't like wearables. I don't like technology attached to me as I'm wearing headphones talking to you. One of the best things that ever happened to me is losing my Apple Watch. I am a guy that I don't watch TV. I got rid of television. I'm a guy that believes in life and reading and experience. I'm a business guy, so I do spend a lot of time on my phone, but I don't like wearables. If I had to recommend one, or if I had to say which one do I work with the most when we're talking about athletes, the Whoop. And I don't have anything to do with Whoop. I don't know. Whoop don't pay me. I wish they did, but they don't pay me. I have nothing to do with them. Whoop is phenomenal wearable if you're into that stuff. It is very in-depth. It asks you questions. You check in what's working, what's not. I mean, it is super in-depth, from sleep recovery, monitoring of, the processes that are happening with you while you sleep. It's wild. And we see so we're very active on Instagram. We're very active in social because that's where people meet and that's where they can connect, right? I'm sure you're very familiar with that. And on our page, we're not a sales page. We share people's stories. We share information about the product, and people will send us their Whoop scores all the time. And because it will show you a specific percentage of where you started, what your recovery is, what you can change. Like, it's really cool. And people will within 4 days, we've got guys that send us their Whoop scores and they've gotten an increase in recovery and sleep by 68%. I mean, in 4 days, it's wild. So
Wow.
I always recommend the Whoop.
Okay.
WHOOP. If Whoop is out there and they want to talk to me, you can reach me. You can reach us on the Instagram. But Whoop is a great product.
Wow, that's cool because my husband's 63 and he's an athlete, but gosh, he does things different than me. Like, we're just very different. So I will have him do all of that.
Yeah, but everybody's got to sleep.
So what's your Instagram?
You can find us at BioProtein Tech. That's BioProteinTech.
Okay. Is that where you're the most active on social?
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh, that's our company. I mean, that's our company page. That's where we people ask questions, they share their stories, they share stuff, we answer any questions. And I always like to tell people, like, go on the page, check it out. You got any questions, even if it's not directly related to our specific product, we'll point you in the right direction. We can offer some types of advice, or we can offer, what's worked for this person, what's worked for that person. It's not manned by a medical doctor, so that's not medical advice. However, we work with physicians all over the country, and if it's an issue we can't really help you with, we have trusted physicians that I myself would go to, that we recommend and refer people out if it's something that we don't handle. I personally do that all the time. Guys, gals, they come in. I have my favorite docs that I've worked with across the country, from sports visit. I mean, we have doctors that manage entire sports teams in Las Vegas that love this stuff. I send them people all the time. We have physicians all throughout Florida. I mean, all over the place. So if it's something we can't handle, tell me where you're at, tell us where you're living, and maybe we can send you to somebody who I would trust to personally go with, that I would recommend.
Well, I'm in California and I haven't been to the doctor in 3 years or something. I fired my last doctor because she was drinking a Diet Coke. And I'm like, listen, I can't get behind you.
I hear you. I hear you, Tracy. And I don't go to the doctor much either. I think, great biomarkers for, your health and wellness a lot of times are, how do you feel? How do you sleep? How do you look? How are those things? Are you happy as an individual? Because let's be honest, over a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, biomarkers so magically change, and we're tracking different things. Cholesterol was the biomarker for, if you're going to die in 10 years. And now cholesterol, as we know, it depends on when you take the blood. I mean, you could have just eaten a steak and it will absolutely immediately change the biomarkers of cholesterol. So, but that being said, there are still good physicians out there that do care, that are directly in line with what you're talking about, that talk about the, starting from the root cause first and waiting on just, pulling out that script pad before they actually address what the real issues are. I personally have one. And I can tell, Tracy, without saying much more, like you and I are very similar on a cognitive level and philosophy level. I mean, there are still docs that agree and are MDs that are on similar wavelengths, that want to help you and start from the bottom and then work your way up to figuring out what's actually wrong.
Well, I would like to find one in this area. I live in California, in the South Bay area. And
okay.
So if you know anybody somewhere like San Jose, Los Gatos, Monterey, somewhere in that region, I'm all ears. So if you were to close with one final note that you want the listeners to take home, what would that be?
So I have to use my delay tactics here of reciting the same question back over again, because I get asked this question a lot and I always think I'm like ready to answer it. And I always try to thread it into like our products, because that's my job. But at the very core of everything, I like for people to really know, like products and business aside, that you're not alone in this world and that people care about you. And even if it's like a stranger, right? Like me, our entire core purpose of bringing these products to the forefront is because we want people to feel better. I'll be very honest with you. You shouldn't have to feel like crap, and you shouldn't look in the mirror and not like what you see. You should not have to look in the mirror, wake up and not be happy with yourself. That's something that I think as a human being, a lot of us or most of us struggle with, no matter how in shape you are, no matter how you perform. I mean, there's always something that you look in the mirror and you're like, man, I don't like this. Or even if it's inherent, like inside cognitively, like I don't like this about myself. If I could help even just one person change or wake up and look in the mirror and feel better about themselves, have more confidence, like what they see and feel when they look in the mirror, like understand you're not alone and that there's people that are out there that really want to help you and help you feel good. And,
that's true. It's just about wrapping your head around possibility and realizing you're not stuck. I always say you're not too old and it's never too late to do a 180 and just go down a different pathway to feel better instead of living for decades in misery, which so many people do, including my own mother.
Tracy, I couldn't agree with you more. People, man, what you said is so cool and so important. It's like, it's never too late. And people really need to understand that and that's in anything in life, business. If you hate your job, it's never too late to figure it out. I'm not saying go out and quit your job right now. I'm saying spend your time that you have on figuring out either how to make it better or to do that 180 and do what you've wanted to do. If you're not in shape, if you haven't stepped foot in the gym or you're not getting what you want, it's not too late. I don't care if you're 70 years old, 60 years old, do something. Don't get overwhelmed. It always starts with one step. Just do one little thing and it snowballs and compounds. But I laughed because you said your mother, and I had that talk with my mother the other day, who's in her 60s, and she has had a rough go at stuff. We haven't had it easy no one has it easy in life, but she's had a rough go, and she's in her 60s, and she finally kind of got something happened in business where she's real excited. And finally I'm like, Mom, it's never too late to turn a new leaf, to change your perspective, to positivity instead of negativity, and to make very small changes that compound over time and can completely rework your life in a matter of months. It doesn't necessarily take 2 decades. It can happen a lot faster than you think. So if you're out there and you're listening and you haven't taken that step yet, I promise you, you will not regret it. Take one small step at a time.
Absolutely. And they will compound. I love that you said that, over time, and create new rituals. So you don't even have to think about it. It just becomes
100%.
part of who you are. So I know last night we're sitting around the dinner table with a family event and I'm the only one not eating cake, and everybody's like, why aren't you having a I'm like, just don't want it anymore.
I don't want any cake. Leave me alone. That's been Tracy. That's been the story of my life for a very long time is, I would go out to restaurants or dinners with friends and stuff, and I would pass on certain things. And like, why not? Like, dude, why are you? Why can't I not eat cake? I have a great book for that, actually, for individuals. Again, I have nothing to do with this individual, but it's a book that I read that for people who are really struggling to take that next step, or like they just need to start. It's called The Mountain Is You.
Oh,
and I don't remember who it's by, but I will tell you that from a guy who doesn't listen to self-help stuff, I don't go to the conferences, I don't do any of that noise. I believe in the power of yourself and changing things. That book was life-changing. And that's coming from a guy who, I do have great discipline. And it took time to build, but I read that in a place of, I was already in a good spot of discipline. And it's just a really great book about taking that first step, about understanding that you can be your own worst enemy, and learning of how to break through those personal barriers of just taking the step, committing to it, using that compound effect to make very real change that leads to, personal wellness and happiness. So I always recommend that book.
Sorry, I wrote it down, so I'm definitely going to get it. So I just want to thank you, Dustin. You're a doll. It was really fun talking with you. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Tracy, I love that we're all saying thank you, but I just really appreciate the opportunity. Anything I can do to do what we do to get these things into people's hands that can make their lives better. That's, kind of my life goal here. So you're giving me the opportunity to do it. I'm very, very grateful. And I hope this isn't the last time that I'm on your show or speak to you.
Oh, I'd love to have you back. We'll do it before and after.
Shoot me your information. We'll get you a sleep product for your husband. And, hopefully we can help him out.
That sounds awesome. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it.
Okay, that was super fun. Check him out at bioproteintech.com and on Instagram at BioProteinTech. For complete show notes, you can head on over to highenergygirl.com/show. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.